Hi, I am Manish from Ksolves. Today I will show you how Apache NiFi operations move from manual and risky to centralized, validated and scalable with full control across environments. Most NiFi teams face the same three challenges, no matter how mature their platform is. First, deploying flows safely across multiple environments. Second, catching configuration issues before production. And third, managing controller services at scale. These problems don't just slow teams down, they create operational risk. This is where DFM comes in. DFM is a centralized control plane for Apache NiFi designed to give teams full visibility, governance, and consistency across dev, QA, and prod. Whether you prefer supervised operations or AI-assisted automation, DFM gives you one place to manage everything. In this demo, I will walk you through three real scenarios. First, how we deploy and promote flows centrally across all environments. Second, how we run flow validation and sanity checks before anything reaches production. And third, how we manage controller services across clusters without manual firefighting.
All right, let's now see DFM 2.0, the Agentic AI in action. At the bottom, we have this DFM agent icon. We click this icon to launch the agent, and this is how the agent looks like, and it is ready to take any commands or any prompts. Let's start with some basic actions first. Let's say I want to list which clusters are available in my DFM portal. So I give the prompt. All right, I've got two clusters. Let's now log into production cluster. All right, using the DFM agent, I am able to list my clusters and I'm able to log into one of these selected clusters. Let's go ahead. Let's say I want to see which process groups or data flows are currently deployed in my production cluster. So I can see that there are two data flows currently deployed in my production cluster. Let's now see what is the status of one of these process groups. So it has shown me that this process group is right now in a stop state, and it has given me other details of the data flow also. So let's try and start this process group, this data flow, using the agent. There. So using the agent, I was able to get the status of my process groups in my cluster, and then I was able to take action on them. For example, I wanted to start a process group, and the agent was able to do that successfully. So these were some simple operations that we have been doing using the agent. Let's try and do a complex operation now. Let's say I want to deploy a process group into my cluster, and I also want to, let's say, do a sanity check on that. So let's see how I am able to achieve this using the DFM agent. All right, there it is. So the agent did a deployment of the process group and also performed a sanity check on that. And at the same time, it also identified that there were certain errors in that deployment of the process group. The process group has certain misconfiguration, and it has identified that misconfiguration, that there's an input directory field which has a value of a directory which is incorrect because the directory does not exist. So it has identified an error in that process group. Let's now go ahead and fix that error using DFM UI. So I go to the process group, I go to the process group details, and over here I have the tab of sanity verification report. I go over there. Over there again I can see the errors that were identified by the agent, and the same error is listed over here also, that there's an invalid directory path which has been given. Let's now go and fix this invalid directory. So I go to parameter context. I go and edit that parameter context to a right directory path. This directory should exist in my server, hence that error should be resolved. I go back to sanity verification report and I rerun the sanity check. Now, because that directory exists, my sanity should come successful. There it is. The directory path was corrected and the sanity check passed successfully. Imagine if this would have been done without DFM. The flow deployment would have succeeded, though the directory path was incorrect. Then the error would have come in the log, which would have raised maybe some alert. The DevOps team would have logged in and then they would have triaged that log and identified the error. Then they would have reached out to NiFi Ops team, who would then have come into NiFi UI and fix that parameter context. Right? All of this would have taken a couple of hours to triage and fix the issue. With DFM, this was done at the time of deployment itself, within a few minutes. That is the power of DFM. And with the agent, you could do all this by just giving in a command. All right, let's move on. Let's see which other features DFM 2.0 agent has. Let's talk about controller services now. So again, I ask my agent to list all controller services in my cluster. There, it has listed all the control services available in my cluster. And as you can see on the DFM UI also, this list is actually matching. Let's now go ahead and see what other operations we can perform on these controller services. Let's see the status of one of these control services. All right, over here, we can see that this controller service is right now in a disabled state. I would now use the DFM agent to enable this controller service. There it is. The agent has successfully enabled the control service. So I was able to view which control services are in my cluster. I was able to see the status of those control service. I was able to change the status of those control service. Effectively, I was able to do operations on my control services using the DFM2 agent. All right, next, let's look at how DFM 2.0 agent can help me validate my process books. These are standard validation rules which are available out of the box in DFM. You can also add your own validation rules. So first, I will list the processes which are deployed. And let's pick one of these and run the validation rules against that. It has listed me the validation rules against which I can execute this. So I want to execute this validation against all the rules. And it has executed and given me the results. So I now know if any of these validation rules might have failed against this process group, then I need to go and fix that process group. Now, these validation rules ensures that my all process groups follow some standard best practices during deployment. Using DFM 2.0 agent, we can just give a command to DFM to do this validation.
I hope this video has sparked your curiosity about DFM 2.0. If it has, please reach out to us at sales@ksolves.com for a personalized demo. I will show in detail how DFM 2.0 is changing the NiFi landscape forever. See you on the other side.